Hey, are we on? Are we recording? Got to get everything set up. You know what I'm saying? Got to get everything set up. Had to get my chapstick though. You know what I'm saying? Know how it is. Got to get the lips right. Get the lips right. All right, all right. Thank you for bearing with me there. It's your boy Cypher the MC here once again. Enter the Cypher podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you're looking forward for your week to turn out great. Remember, you can only control what you can control. So we're just going to jump right into it here. As you know, we've been kind of working on this step parent series here. This is part three. If you didn't happen to catch the first two parts, definitely go back and download those. There's some good content in there, some good tools that you may be able to use. So definitely check into it. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're definitely going to be able to click on those links in the description to basically reference the same content that I'm getting this information from, and just to try to get us to a good point where we have a better understanding of this thing called parenthood, but this little subgenre, as you guess you can say, step parenthood. So first and foremost, as always, disclaimer: I'm not a doctor of any kind. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist or family therapist or relationship expert or whatever. I'm just giving you the benefit of my experience, and maybe a different perspective on something that we just kind of either accept or just go with. Oh, okay, that's just the way that it's always been. So always want to get that out. Again, don't want to get contacted by what did I call it last episode? The American Association of Step Parents, ASP. That might actually be a thing. If so, hey, you heard it here first. So, but thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support each and every week. So we definitely just want to get this cipher growing and better understanding as we work towards the best version of ourselves. So we're gonna jump right into it. Today, part three, the stepfathers. So I got some information here, got some content. And just to kind of recap, stepfathers, they're out there as far as the amount of the quantity of stepfathers out there as part of these blended families, as they're now called. No longer being referenced as step families. I guess that's an old school term or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much stepfathers are basically father figures that step in, either with the mother, that either they have kids, the mother has kids, or the father has kids, or both. So that's the term blended family there. So, but we're gonna kind of break this thing down. So that way you can kind of say, okay, I see where you're coming from. And this is just for anyone that you maybe already be a stepfather. You may be, talking to a woman with kids, or dating a woman with kids, or whatever. Or maybe you're, stepfather. You've been a stepfather for years. Maybe this is old information. Maybe this is something new that you can kind of use and say, hey, you know what? I never thought of it that way. And that's the point of the cipher, just getting different perspectives and kind of using what we learn to apply to our daily lives. So with that being said, we gonna jump right into it. So information, like I said, I'm gonna leave the links in the description box. The first, what really caught my eye was on theconversation.com. And there's three misconceptions, pretty much, of being a stepdad. And it's kind of crazy that this information even, everyone likes to do these studies and all that sort of stuff. So like I said, science is everywhere. So, um, but pretty much what the conversation says is pretty much over 50% of families today include partners who have remarried or recoupled. So, some predict that even step families, the number of step families, will eventually exceed nuclear families. I don't know. Now, this is what really blew my mind. 15% of all step families consist of a father, stepmother, and his biological children. Okay, 15%. Okay. So but the most common composition of families around the 85% mark consists of a mother, her biological children, and a stepfather. Now, of course, we kind of see this growing up often. You know, it's always, or pretty much to me, it's always been the guy stepping in, versus, vice versa, the mother stepping in. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's just the dating scene or marriage or whatever, but marriages play a big part of it because of the divorce rate. So, but those three primary misconceptions, we're going to get right into those. Number one, being a stepfather is just like being a biological father. No, it's not. It depends on how you look at it. True. Of course, there's exceptions to every rule. Let me get that out there. That's going to be my new disclaimer. There's exceptions to every rule. But being a stepfather is just like being a biological father. No, it's not. It's nothing like it, really. Um, because number one, the affection is different. The disciplinary actions are different. Um, you know, Pretty much the stepfather has no real history or legacy with the children. So, it's pretty normal for a stepfather to experience feelings of being unwanted, dismissed, or his authority not being recognized. Now, by no means does this mean that it's a reflection of him as a man or a father. That's just the dynamic of being a stepfather. Um, but it's nothing like being a biological father, whereas it's kind of automatic. Those things happen, um, and everything. So, number two, a stepfather needs to establish authority and discipline the children if necessary. And I find that this is where a lot of conflict comes into play because a lot of stepfathers, they stepping in, so they may feel that, hey, okay, this isn't being done, this isn't being done, I got to put the hammer down, boom, 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 and be the hard one. And some wives kind of push their husbands, or the girlfriends push their significant others to do so, but it's almost impossible to effectively do that because the underlying you know the underlying basis or foundation is trust. So in order for anything to be effective, they got to have that trust between the step parents and the step children, because due to that lack of connection or history or prior experience, the trust hasn't been met yet. To whereas, and this is just early on. Now it may develop over time, so I don't want to, detract anyone from oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. It takes time, and that's pretty much what you're going to hear out throughout the whole series. Blended families take time. There's no set number of years or what have you. It just takes time. But regarding this particular myth, it's stating that it's the responsibility of the biological parent, with the step parent providing input to create, relate, and enforce family expectations. That way, everyone is on the same page. That way, there is no back and forth, or the kids are going to always feel one way about, oh my gosh, I can't do anything, or I can't go here, or it's not fair. Kids always think everything is unfair to them. Everything. Oh, I gotta wake up and go to school. Oh, it's unfair. Oh, I gotta eat all my vegetables. Oh, it's unfair. Oh, I gotta wait till I'm such and such an age to drive or to go places by myself or whatever. It's unfair. It's life. Kids are always gonna look that way, But when the parents are on the same page, then it's more or less like it's a I guess you can say, hey, everyone is on the same page. There's no back and forth. There's no, you know, one person saying this or one person hearing that. There's no misinterpretation. So it's good that that input should be there, because a united approach can be helpful, but the mother should be the base of the authority in this instance here. And lastly, the third misconception is that stepfathers need to compensate for the absent biological father. No, I know a lot of men may feel this way. You may feel that, okay, well, he's not here. Well, I got to step in. And this is how I was raised. And my daddy did this to me and did this with me and blase, blase. And, I didn't get away with anything, so you're not going to get away with anything. Uh, that can backfire. um, because you can't really define who you are by what another man did or didn't do, right? You can't really say, I got to be, hard on Javante simply because his daddy isn't here or his daddy wasn't hard on him and whatever, and I think he's spoiled. I need to be hard on him. No, it's a matter of, okay, you have to kind of co-parent and kind of understand that the absent father will still hold the affections of the children. There may be some, whatever reason that they're absent for, you know, it's always going to be a little bit more of a, forgiving, affection towards the biological. So you don't want to kind of, come in there and like a hurricane and kind of just blow everything down. Okay, we're going to start, we're going to do it this way. Trust me, it doesn't always, work. There's a dynamic there, and again, patience, time, patience. I think that sort of thing. So, but stepfathers still play a critical role. By being supportive, in the home, and of course, again, being patient and caring. You know, kids, regardless of whether they're biological or stepchildren, they don't always see it as caring. It's like, hey, if you do it this way, it's going to, benefit you. What they hear is, oh, they're just telling me what to do. I don't have to do this here. I don't have to do this, at my daddy's house. I don't have to do this at, my other parents' house or whatever. So it's kind of a, you have to try to build that trust in order for them to see that what you're saying is more caring and supportive because you're the adult. You have the experience, you have the wisdom of saying, hey, you know what? I know the benefits of getting plenty of rest. I know, for school, I know the benefits of doing your homework in an environment that allows you to study. I have that experience. I have that, knowledge. I have that wisdom. So it's not always seen that way, but again, it takes patience. How much patience? That depends on you. I'm just being totally honest. It depends on you because if you're if you're naturally a patient person, then hey, yes, you can say, hey, look, the reason why I'm telling you this is blase blase. But if you're not so much a patient person, it's going to take longer than it would if you were patient. So, but you have to maintain a healthy relationship or healthy marriage by by doing those things, by having patience and caring. So yeah, it is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. Um, and to try to kind of avoid you know outdated notions and things of that nature regarding absent fathers or fathers that really don't provide maybe the same outlook for their own children that you do for your stepchild. So again, parents have to be on the same page with the input there, so that way you know the children are the ones that would benefit the most. So in this article here, again from theconversation.com, I will leave in the link in the description. It has some good content in there. I just kind of touched on pretty much just the main parts that kind of stood out to me, simply because those are misconceptions that I've heard of stepfathers, that maybe at one time I had one of myself, and it's all a part of learning. It's all a part of learning. It's all a part of understanding who you are and understanding these children. Sometimes you have to observe. I always prided myself, excuse me, as far as pretty much just saying, hey, I'm going to observe people, not in a stalker type of way, but rather just saying, okay, I want to see how this person treats the people around them, how this person treats the people around her. Do I want to associate myself with that type of person? Oftentimes, the answer was like, but again, this was during my youth, my younger years. I still do it now to a larger extent, because as an adult, people are who they are. Children are still forming their identity. They're still, if they're the adolescent teenage years, they're still forming their identity of who they are, who they want to be. So sometimes during these times when blended families becomes the become the situation, or scenario, so to speak, it's kind of like, okay, I'm still trying to identify who I am. Now I need to figure out where I stand within this blended family. So, but it's not impossible, being a step parent or stepfather in this instance, but why doesn't it always work? Why doesn't it always work? Um, you know, Most of the time it's just a lack of communication between the parents involved. You know, the old, not say the old, but the biological father, or maybe the term that you've heard thrown around is baby daddy and baby mama drama and all that. The baby daddy or whatever. He doesn't like the new guy because, well, he's the new guy. He's with the woman that I was with. He's with the woman that I had children with. He's taking over. He's going to push me out. I'm not going to be in their lives as much as, it's all those scenarios that TV movies are based off of. Your Lifetimes, your Hallmarks, your BET movies or whatever. It's based off of those, oh, I'm going to be pushed out of their life, and it always ends up with some scene of, some fight scene, and then there's a car explosion in the background by Michael Bay. Michael Bay car explosions are awesome. I'm just saying, but again, lack of communication between the parents involved. So, in this instance, for stepfathers, it's always dealing with more or less the other guy, the biological father. That he's not going to want to talk to you if you're his replacement. This is not the NFL where you have the starter who's now the backup that's going to help the guy that's taking his job. He's not. This is not the NFL. Oh, you're the new guy. Okay, sure. I'll tell you, everything that I didn't do that you should do, so you can be better at me at what I should have done. No, not going to happen. And again, those unresolved emotions from the past relationship, touched on that. But also unrealistic expectations at the beginning of the relationship between the adults involved, between the man and the woman, that they have the children and stuff. It's like, okay, how are we going to handle this? It can't automatically be expected that just because you're the man, that you're automatically going to come in with all the answers regarding parenthood. Even if you're a father yourself, step parenthood is totally different. Not by much, but there are dynamics that are different than if it was your own biological children. So, when that isn't discussed early on, it kind of leaves a lot open to interpretation. And as we all know, things can get misinterpreted so quickly amongst human beings. I almost don't like it. I'd rather just, if I say it, I say it. If I don't say it, don't misinterpret it or anything like that. So that's just me. I'm just wanted to share that. But lastly, no communication or input from the children involved. So there's a feeling of inclusion. Kids want to be included in things. I think that's why a lot of kids kind of rebel or don't listen as well as they should, because maybe in the beginning of the relationship they weren't included, so it wasn't a I know what's going on or what have you. Now, granted, depending on the age of the child, certain things may go over their head. They may not understand. It may just be too complicated to explain it to them. Again, exceptions to every rule. But you just have to kind of take those things with a grain of salt and say, hey, you know what? This is what's going on. This is what happened. And this is, this is where we are at this point. But I wanted to make sure that you knew exactly what's going on. So it's good to have those conversations. If you're dating someone with, with kids, fellas, hey, kind of have those conversations early on. It's not a matter of not understanding it's a quote unquote package deal, but it's a matter of saying, okay, you and I, we're dating. At some point, I'm going to interact with your children. Um, what role do I play in that? So, but hey, it all comes down to that communication aspect. So, but don't worry. There are some other things here that kind of, a little bit more on the lighter side, I guess you can say. All Pro Dad, 5 ways to be a great stepdad. And these are pretty much good. I'm not going to go into the information under each way, but I definitely wanted to provide them to you. Um, so the first way is keep encouraging the children's relationship with their biological father. So if you're supportive of that and you're not turning up your nose or talking bad about the biological father or anything such as that, that's not going to because you don't want to hurt the relationship between you and the kids by doing that. I've seen that and heard of that so much. There's always bad talking about the biological parent, and I mean, the whoever's talking, they have their right to their opinion, but when it comes to children, they hold their biological parents in high regard, maybe one more so than the other. But by the same token, you don't want to do you don't want to be talking bad about them. You just want to kind of keep encouraging, hey, you got to listen, you got to make notes and things of that nature. You got to appreciate. I really don't think kids really appreciate their parents until they're no longer here, regardless of whether biological parents or step parents or uncles, aunts, grandparents, whatever. We need to kind of teach kids early on to appreciate the individuals that are taking the time to give them experience, knowledge, provide them with things that will help build up their wisdom bank, as I like to call it. Actually, I just made that up, but it does make sense. Build up your wisdom bank. So that's the way, that's the experience that you can rely on that's going to help you get through those tough times, those tough situations. Hey, you know what? Be patient. That's in my wisdom bank. I'm just a patient guy, to a certain extent. Even my patience runs thin sometimes, but I'm only human. But anyway, enough about me. Um, the number 2 tip to be a great stepdad: discuss discipline and exercise it with extreme caution. So, again, this goes back to, um, basically talking to the mother. The mother should be the authority. You know, I know I know women like to put a lot on a man's shoulders, saying this is, men, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. You're the one that. But when it comes to a blended family, being a step parent, it may not be taken the right way. And again, We've all seen this in those movies where, oh, you're not my dad or you're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do. And, you know, the parent is only trying to protect them or, you know, give them knowledge or what have you. But it's taken a totally different way. It's like, oh, just because you came into our lives, you automatically, you know, put on this belt of authority and now you want to whip it out on me. Mm. It's up to the biological parent to be the main one authority. So, but it's good that you have to discuss that discipline and everything like that. So number three, schedule regular times away from the kids as a couple. So stepfathers and stuff. Hey, sometimes you need a break from the kids. You know, have a date night or, to kind of reconnect with the person that you're with, so that way you can pretty much, continue to keep your relationship strong. And at the same time, if those questions come up or those conversations come up regarding the kids or anything such as that, guess what? You're alone. You can talk about it. You can say, well, this is how I see things, or this is how, I feel that things should be. And then you can come to, maybe some compromises in that regard. Number four, practice acceptance. It's pretty much, dealing with flexibility and being a healthy role model here, in the relationship and everything like that. So you definitely have to be open and willing to kind of deal with the quirkiness of those around you. So you kind of have to understand it, but also have to say, okay, that's just who they are, you know. And number five, I'm not sure why this is here, but I guess it's been kind of a focal point. Of course, they do a lot of studies on this. Don't force her children to call you dad. Okay, that's understandable. You don't want to confuse the children. You don't want to kind of take away from the biological father, or lessen their role or lessen their importance. You don't want them feeling some type of way, pretty much. And those are just the five tips there from allprodad.com. Again, I'll leave that link in the description below as well. So that way you can kind of go back and say, hey, okay, there's some good stuff there. And lastly, the science of stepdads. You knew it was coming. Science has to get involved. Science has to kind of give you this information here, which is good in a way. Which is good because, as Jay-Z said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And that is and it is found that most human beings, if they see numbers or something, they equate that to, pretty much what decision they're going to make. If 95% of people used a certain type of toothbrush that was found to, get your teeth whiter, raise your IQ 10 points, most people would buy that toothbrush simply based on the science. So that is, but no, there's no toothbrush that raises your IQ. That would be nice though. I'm just saying. I'd buy it. So here's the thing about this particular article here, and I mean, it's pretty good. Um, there's these things called turning points. It's kind of when the um, black part of a movie where the there's a realization, an epiphany, or that light bulb goes off. Similar to watching a football game and you kind of feel the momentum shift. It's that shift when the stepchildren kind of in the relationship with the step parent improves drastically. So it's kind of a okay, they're listening now, they're understanding the importance of what I'm saying, so I'm going to kind of be more supportive, than I was before, and be there for them more, so more than before. And this definitely helps the relationship, um, because you have to build that rapport with, the children. If you don't, and you start, do this, do this, do this, it can do more harm than good. You know, setting expectations is fine because you want them to understand that you care enough to set those expectations first and foremost. But when you start, oh, do this because I said so. It's my rules. Do this, do this. Then it's kind of like, you just came into the picture like 5 minutes ago. I'm not doing that. So, excuse me, I have a slight cold there. Um, but there is a transition period. And in this particular article, they say in the first 2 years. So, I mean, if you're new to step parenthood within that time frame, or you are pretty much you've been a step parent for a while, or what have you, and but it has been under 2 years. Guess what? You have a couple more, you know, a little ways to go, so to speak. But studies suggest that stepfathers should work on forming, certain types of relationships with their stepchildren, acting more as friends than parents. Not sure if I agree with that, only because there has to be that line. I don't believe that children and parents should be friends. I should think there should be that understanding that um, I'm here for you, and while we can talk, while we can relate, things of that nature, you still have to kind of know your boundaries. When you don't set those boundaries, then you have, those, kids that talk to their parents like they talk to their friends. And then it's like, you let your child talk to you that way, and you know, oh, they're just acting out. I tell them to, express themselves. No, there's a certain way you can express yourself as a child to a parent, but it's, you have to do it respectfully, and you have to make sure that as the parent, you establish those boundaries. So, I don't pretty much agree with that whole, you know, you know, um, be more friends than parents. Um, you still want to make sure that the door is open for that child to come to you, to talk to you, things of that nature, and that it's known, that you make it known, and everything like that. It's still up to the child to cross that threshold to through that door, but you have to make sure that they know of the door. You got to make sure they know that the door is there and that it is always open for them to talk to you. So that's just my take and everything like that. Um, because there's an emerging consensus, they say, that kids who grow up with engaged stepdads enjoy many of the same um, types of um, many types of advantages known collectively as father effects. Of course, as a scientific term, I'm thinking Keanu Reeves at this point, as kids raised by the men, um, who have, their own biological children, and everything like that. So it's kind of a win-win, um, because if you're engaged in their lives, meaning that you're not just leaving everything up to the mother. Well, that's your child. That's your child. That's your child. I mean, at certain points, that may need to come into play. But if it's just purely, you know, uh, I have no dealings with them, then this father effect likely will not happen. Um, children with outstanding stepfathers, they perform better in school. They enjoy healthy relationships with others, according to this article here, and are less likely to suffer from, depression than kids who grow up in single parent homes. So of course, there's numbers and studies to back all that information up and all that sort of stuff. Um, but while step parents offer stability similar to that of biological parents, the challenges are unique. It's still unique in that regard. So, and just to throw some numbers out here rather quickly, and this was in 2017 that this article came out. So, of course, this number may have actually gone up, but there were 1.3 million stepfathers in the U.S. So, um, more than 1,300 new blended families form each day, and more than 50% of the children under 13 live with one biological parent and one step parent. And if it seems like those figures are kind of, like, wow, you blame the divorce rate. You know, um, there's studies now that say that in the U.S., um, the average marriage lasts barely 7 years, and roughly half of all marriages end in divorce. Um, anyway, but still, the vast majority of kids in step families do quite well, and having an engaged stepfather contributes to that. So, if you are, a stepfather, I applaud you. Applaud you. And say, you may think, well, I don't consider myself a stepfather. I've been a stepfather myself, so I don't really consider myself a stepfather. I don't put the step in front of it. I've been a father and a stepfather, so I just consider myself a father or father figure. I still do the same things that a father does. I address situations as they come along, support and encourage and motivate as best as I can. Um, you do have to take into account the children's ages, um, because, a child that's, in their teenage years versus a child that's still in single digits, they're not going to understand on the same level. You're going to have to kind of, decipher how to approach, the child and when it comes to interacting with them. So, but these turning points, they're great. They help build rapport, um, and really, the stepfather. Um, you need to just focus on establishing a relationship with the stepchildren before you step into, um, into the primary parenting disciplinary role. Um, it's hard because sometimes you get thrown into that role. You get thrust into it, by the woman that you're with. Sorry, ladies, but you tend to do that. You know, you're the man. You handle that, or you're supposed to do this now because, you're the father figure in the house, or whatever. Because that is what they were used to. Maybe they had brothers, and who handled the brothers? The father. So maybe that's kind of where some of you may be at. Hey, you don't want to be in that position, so that's why the good communication and talking beforehand as far as your role as a step parent coming into the relationship. Hey, we need to kind of make sure, because I want the relationship between me and your children to be the best that it can be, and I don't want to stifle that or stagnate that by coming in and you're telling me to drop the hammer anytime that they, act up. So with that being said, and again, this article saying 2 to 6 years, I mean, 6 months to 2 years or whatever, to kind of get that all that sort of stuff. I don't know, but if you rank what's best for kids, it's when both father figures are involved, and there's little to no conflict. There's always going to be some reservations there, of course, but if one is involved, that's good. Neither involved is the worst case scenario. So, and involved basically means not just being there. You have to kind of set the tone. You want to set the tone. Parenting isn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. There's no guide. There's no manual. There's no PDF. You know, parenting downloaded uh, fatherly instructions. I don't know, but there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. So we kind of have experience to lean on, as well as articles such as these right here that kind of give us some hints or some insight or some okay, so that's why maybe I'll try that. It kind of gives you that advice to try to get you on a path that you may not be on. A lot of us, we try to lean on a lot of how we grew up and what we saw, um, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think the principles can pretty much stand the test of time. But when it comes to certain methods, certain methods may have to, catch up to the times and kind of actually, be revamped. So, how your father handled things in 1980, whatever, 1970, 1980, whatever, may not work in 2021. So you kind of have to say, you know what, let me revamp this because I knew what my reaction was as a child getting discipline was. I don't want that same reaction here. I'm going to need to kind of revamp it, you know. Um, but being a stepfather, is just like being a parent. It's a great experience. Um, overall, you're going to have your highs and lows. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have those periods where it's like, oh my gosh, you just want to throw your hands up. You just want to pick up your ball and go home. You want to pull a Snoopy. You want to get a stick, get all your belongings, get a handkerchief, put everything in a handkerchief, tie it to the end of that stick, and just doom 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 doom. You just want to just hey, I'm out. But you know, it takes patience. It takes time. Um, and that's one of the things that we all have to learn when it comes to parenthood. It takes patience. It takes communication. Um, and it takes someone willing to step up. So I mean, I applaud any man that says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to try to be, the best stepfather that I can be, and actively do so." You know, not just just being there. Because if you're just there, same as a biological father, if you're just there, you're not really making an impact. You're just a body. You're just taking up space. But if you're kind of trying to set an example, set a tone, if you want the best for them and actually, try to teach them that and actively show them how to basically do those things, that's going to benefit them in the long run, then guess what? I applaud you. My hat's off to you. Not this hat right here because I like it. So you got the little gaming on there. Oh shoot, up down, AB. Um, but you have to kind of be patient with it because it is a process, and blended families, they're worth it because the children ultimately are going to benefit, hopefully greatly enough to go out into the world. And if push comes to shove, if they're a step parent themselves, whether stepmother, stepfather, they'll bring the same love and patience that they experienced with you to the children in their lives. So, but this has been the Into the Cypher podcast. I greatly appreciate the support. Thank you for the downloads, whether you're in the U.S. or the U.K. Hey, if you have any friends in Africa, South America, Asia, tell them about the podcast. Tell them that, hey, if they're looking for something that's going to, maybe make them smile, chuckle, but also give them some good content, to be the best version of themselves, because we're all working towards that each and every day. Definitely recommend the podcast to them and everything. So that way they pretty much can kind of listen in and maybe get something from from it to help them in their daily life. So, but for those that have been riding with me, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for your support. It's only going to go up from here. Only going to go up from here. But I thank you so much. And I want each and every one of you to have a blessed day, blessed week coming up. Remember, you can only control what you can control. And always remember, before you can do anything else, before you can love anyone else, you must first what? I can't hear you. You got it. You must first love yourself. I'm your host, Cypher AMC here once again. Love you guys. Y'all have a blessed week. And I'm out this thing.